Hi everybody, I'm Lance Powell, Supervising Art Director at Cloud Imperium.
And I'm Gurmukh Basin, concept artist, and we're here to tell you a little bit about the Vanguard.
Tell us about the combat capabilities of the Vanguard.
So the Vanguard is it's a deep space heavy fighter.
Mm-hmm.
It's meant to fly from planet-side bases and fly up to a star systems away and hunt down the Vanduul. Either larger Vanduul ships or small ships kind of just straggling around. The Vanguard can be used in a fleet or by itself. Since it's a deep space fighter, it can travel very long distances, and so it has large fuel tanks. One of the advantages of having fuel tanks and being able to travel larger distance without refueling is that it can be first to the fight.
What does it do when it gets there?
When it gets there, it just messes the enemy up. It packs a first punch, and take some damage while doing that. You know, when you maybe surprise attack an enemy or engage in battle, you know, you're not supposed to like just go there to hit people, but you're also going to be hit yourself, right? So the Vanguard, as a heavy fighter, is meant to take a lot of punches and still be able to fly home, maybe with a wing blown off or an engine blown off. But it sticks around so that it can cause as much damage as possible.
What was your inspiration behind the Vanguard? I know.
Yeah.
They don't know.
So when we were starting this project, Chris Roberts really honed in on the P-38 Lightning, a World War II ship, which is it traveled long distances
Mm-hmm.
and basically did the same thing where it packed a heavy punch. The Lightning traded maneuverability for traveling longer distances. So the Vanguard does trade some maneuverability for its weight and armor, its travel abilities for long distances, and the fuel tanks. You know, they're going to weigh the thing down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. What are the major feature differences between the Hornet and the F-8 Lightning?
I think the most major difference is
It's awesome.
yeah, it's awesome.
It is pretty awesome. Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing is its fuel tanks. So large fuel tanks and large engine nacelles. This thing is basically two large engine nacelles with your body, which is your cockpit, and a small cabin, living quarters. So that speaks to the long distance travel. And the long distance travel, for a Hornet or a F-8 Lightning, you are going to have to refuel on a carrier. You're not going to be able to take off from a ground base and go all the way to star system away.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to kind of have a stop somewhere, refuel, and then continue your journey. With this one, you could just go straight there.
What was your inspiration behind the ship beyond, Chris's, like the P-38? How did you Iron Chef this?
Looked a lot at some of the stealth ships. I think the B-1 was a big inspiration for this. The folded wings on the B-1, we incorporated folded wings into this one as well. And then looking at cool things like Lamborghinis and modern day cars, looking at the Batmobile, the Tumbler. So there was actually a big pool of reference that we pulled from, and they all had to do with different things, whether it was the way the surfacing was and the cut lines and the pinch lines, or the armor on the Tumbler and the way that was kind of a faceted look. So
just one question out of that, because we are seeing a shift in the Aegis design, and
Right.
You're starting to touch on that right now. Can you talk a little bit more about that explicitly with the Aegis and the ship and the Retaliator and the Gladius?
Now that we have a few ships designed per manufacturer, we're getting a better understanding of what each manufacturer looks like and how to move forward when designing new ships. So we're defining what each company is. We're digging pretty deep on reference and keywords and what defines each company. And we're doing that across the board with the ship manufacturers as well as weapons manufacturers. And for Aegis, for example, one of the things they're a military contractor, right? So the majority of their ships are going to be used as military or militia, and their materials are more stealthy, or their forms are a little bit more stealthy, versus like the Anvil ships are a little more boxy. So using those types of references and looking up like stealth ships is one of the things I was talking about. and how they treat their shapes as well as their materials, where they place their cut lines, how their engines look, how they function.
Adding to that, it's one of the things we talked about a couple times in-house is the, utilizing, an actual auto manufacturer as a kind of guide for how we approach manufacturers. So Aegis, for example, not that this is a one-to-one, but it's walking into a Porsche showroom. The idea behind a lot of these, by the way, is exactly that. When you walk into a Porsche showroom, you know you're looking for a Porsche, you've got the money to buy a Porsche, and you know what a Porsche looks like.
Right.
Whether it's the sports car, the four-door, or the SUV. So the idea behind all manufacturers going forward will be to have their signature style specifically for that manufacturer, and to make sure that that it has that feel brought all the way across, so that you're no longer mistaking a MISC ship for a Drake ship or an Aegis ship for an Anvil ship.
Right. It's actually really good to see that happening across the weapons as well, and future components, so that each company has a clearly defined aesthetic and their brand identity, and so then that way within the game you'll be able to recognize it just by seeing it without having to read deeper and hear the name and then hear what company they are. You'll see it and you'll know this is what it is.
Right. So in terms of it being modular?
So the ship will definitely be modular. As the modular aspect of all these ships and the components and everything further develops, we'll know how we can swap out different parts. Potentially we could design 5 types of nacelles, and then you could just swap in and out, or 5 types of wings, or 5 cockpits to choose from. I don't know necessarily how far that we're going to take it with that, because we don't want these to be Lego ships. We want each ship to kind of have its identity, but we do want certain parts to be swappable. And so that all just depends on what design comes up with, and what we agree on as a whole, and figuring out which parts are important to swap. I mean, we already have weapons swappable, power plants, shield generators, all these types of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how far we take it with what other parts we want to swap out as well. Toilets, yeah.
That's right. Chris had the idea of the Bulldog, which now is the Vanguard, and he liked the P-38 Mustang. The P-38 Lightning.
Yeah.
So our idea was to take that ship concept and then do a riff on that, and to give them a couple different flavors to work with. And I think that, from my perspective, this is by far the best ship that we've made.
And it was a great team effort, to be honest. It was actually really cool to see how other areas of the company got involved. I've heard other game studios where concept artists don't talk to the 3D art team and or the design team, and it's like people work with people for years and they don't really know their coworkers, right? And with this ship, it was actually really cool to see how
it's a bond.
Yeah, right? It's a bond, and how everybody came together, and at some points I was really struggling with this ship, and how people came to my rescue, helped me out, and
the ship speaks for itself. Ultimately, when you see it, it's just outstanding.
Yeah, and it'll be fun to play. I mean, I'm excited to see what you guys do with it.
That's Gurmukh Bhasin, concept artist.
And that's Lance Powell, supervising art director.
And we hope you enjoy the Vanguard.
Peace.